this church is definitely the salt of the earth. Now, when you talk about salt, back in the old days, I say old days, back in days before refrigeration, salt was an extremely important thing because they would take food, meat, and other foods and rub the salt on it, and it would preserve it. It would keep the food from decaying. And when Jesus told the disciples, "You are the salt of the earth," it must have really surprised them and shocked them because the disciples were nobody. They were just common men, fishermen, and men that loved God, loved the gospel. And Jesus is telling them they are the salt of the earth. They are what keeps sin down, and they build up the good things in life. My Jimmy's and Chrissy's grandfather on their mom's side, he was Pastor Ralph Bunting. He and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, an awful lot of things, but I was a Christian and went to church. He was a Christian, went to church. He was a minister. I respected him, but we did have one thing in common. We both loved salt. One time, we were sitting at a table eating, and now let me tell you, this man fought in World War II. He was in a building that collapsed. He went to a prisoner of war camp. His coat was stolen in the middle of winter. He had nothing warm. His legs, his feet got frostbitten, and he had the will to live through all of that. But one day I'm sitting there at the table with Mama Pat, the one you named your kitchen after. And by the way, I hope you don't have any salt in that kitchen. But we're sitting there, and Papa reached across to get the salt. She slapped his hand and said, "The doctor said no salt for you." And he looked at her in his tough, meaning way, and he said, "Life ain't worth living without salt." And so I felt the same way at 3 years old. We were down at the Southland cafeteria in Fort Pierce. Probably you don't remember that, but that was the place that church people went after Sunday school and after church. And I was 3 years old. I can still remember it. People say you don't remember a whole lot of things, but I remember this day. And we were sitting there, and our pastor and his wife were sitting across the way. My mom and dad were sitting over here. I was sitting here, and my little sister was sitting at the end of the table. And over here at the end of the table was a big shot church official from Cleveland, Tennessee, Church of God, home headquarters, and he had spoken in our service that day. And of course, everybody was trying to be stoic. And I looked over there and I saw the salt shaker. And I see that the salt shaker is crusted on top with all kind of salt. And me loving salt, I fought it and fought it. And then finally, I couldn't help it. I reached over, grabbed that salt shaker, and I licked it. And it'd have been fine if I hadn't have gone for the second lick. And my mother turned and looked at me, and she says, "You're going to get it when you get home." And I did. I got it when I got home. It was one of the most miserable Sundays I had, Sunday afternoon, and I was so happy to see Sunday night service come.